Hey guys, I wanted to do a quick video on this daily stack tab or quick stack tab, whatever we're calling it, that I'm testing out. I did update the sheet today on August 3rd and I put it on there so you guys can play with it and take a look at it. So here on the daily stack tab, this is typically where I'm getting all my information. But you can see this is just one game and there's a whole bunch of stats in here from how they've been doing, power rankings, we got a live Vegas board, we got stats versus righties, lefties, home away splits, your best stack combos, all the hitters. So this is the main place you want to go. But if you don't have a lot of time to scroll down through these 800 lines of Excel, then you can go to this quick stat tab, and this is kind of where I'm getting the information. So over here we have the team, and then this is the team recent stats. We have their last seven game run average, last 7 team batting average, their last 10 game power rankings. So this is just going to give you a quick look of how the team is performing. This is the Vegas projected runs, so this is going to tell us if it's chalky or not. This is the pitcher the team is facing. Any batter versus pitcher data as far as hits, at bats, and average is going to be right here. And then we've got the pitcher stats they're facing, and these are split stats. So if this pitcher is on the road or this pitcher is at home, these are those specific stats. So I've got their ERA and their xFIP, so we can compare those and see, are they playing better than they should or worse than they should. Then I've got their whip and their batting average allowed, so just a quick look at how the pitcher is doing. And then I've got the bullpen rankings since I pull about the last 5 weeks. This is since July 1st, how the bullpen ranks. And then this is the grade I'm testing. So the first thing you can do is come in here. So how we're going to use this is you can sort projected runs high to low. This will auto update once Vegas puts a line on it. So you can see right now Houston and Minnesota are projected at the top, and you can kind of look down here and see the different data across there on how they're projected. So you might find something in here that you like or you don't like. Houston, of course, is going to be chalky. They're averaging 6.17 runs per game over the last week. They're hitting 294 as a team. They rank number 1 in the last 10 power rankings, and it's not even close. So they're projected at 6.07 runs tonight, and they're killing Marco. Through 60 team at-bats, they're batting 400. Now, Marco Gonzalez does have a 3.62 ERA at his current location, which I believe this game's in Houston, not 100% positive. But his xFIP indicates it should be closer to 5.2. So he's playing over his head right now, and against good hitting teams, that's where it tends to come back to the norm. And then he's got a whip of 1.3, and he's allowing a 262 batting average, which is pretty mediocre. And then when he comes out of the game, we get the number 19 bullpen. So pretty decent there. And you can kind of look down here and decide, do you like the chalk? Do you don't like the chalk? But what we want for GPPs is to find a team kind of in this range that we like. So I've came up with a little grading system that I'll tweak and test. So if you sort this over here high to low, you can look at, I'd say, the top. Last night I did the top 5, go top 7, top 8, pick out some contrarian teams you like, and then on the bottom side you can look at these pitchers. So these pitchers are going against weak teams. You can see Sells listed twice. For some reason, a doubleheader, it pulls the first listed pitcher twice. Let's see right here. So you've got Pina, Pluto, Weiler, German, Strauss, Sale, Hamels, Gibson. So you want to look at these pitchers to play, and then you can see the teams they're facing, how many runs they've been scoring the last game, which one that jumps out at me right here is Milwaukee. Only 3.3, hitting 222 as a team, and 25th in the last 10 power rankings. So they haven't been doing very good. And then LA's been struggling. They're hitting 227 as a team. They come in at 29th. Who else do we got? The White Sox are awful. So they're 2.3 runs per game, hitting 212 as a team, 30th in the last 10 power rankings. So Nola could be a good play today. So that's one quick way to find your pitchers. And then for your stacks, we're going to go up here at the top side. And so let's look at the top handful. And so you can see last 7 runs per game. Minnesota and Houston are up there, which they're chalky. chalky because we compare that to the projected runs for Vegas, and it's 5.8 and 6, so they're going to be highly owned. So let's look at the next two here. So Toronto and Tampa, they're projected at 4.8 and 5.1, so they're less chalky. They're going to be under the norm, and you can see the last 7 games, they're killing it. 7.8, 8.4 runs per game, hitting 292 and 322 as a team. Last 10 power rankings, they rank 2nd and 10th. And then you can see the pitchers they're facing. Bundy has good BVP. They're 10 for 48, so they're only hitting 208 off of him. But the 378 xFIP, or 378 ERA and 508 xFIP indicates he's pitching over his head. And then they've got the 27th ranked bullpen. So based on these stats here, and then the 27th ranked bullpen, Toronto is a one that I would look to stack as kind of a contrarian stack. And then also you have Tampa Bay, who they've been hitting 322 as a team over the last week, and they're facing this guy who's got mediocre stats, nothing great, but there is a good bullpen after him. So that's something to consider if you're only doing one lineup for a contrarian win. Maybe you look towards Toronto because they've got the better bullpen. And if you want to go here to this bullpen, that's perfectly fine. I don't have an issue with that. And then if you go up here to the top 5, I want to figure out why these teams are up here, because when I glance at this, like, Vegas is not projecting these teams to score very many runs. And so I want to see what's popping up. Now, yesterday, the 5 we had were, just to recap, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Philly, Cincy, and Houston. Now, Minnesota and Houston were chalky. They scored 11 runs and 10 runs and both won, so let's throw them out. Now, the 3, I'd say, contrarian stacks that it popped out was 1, Pitt, which I was shocked because Matz was one of my favorite pitchers. Well, Pitt ended up winning the game and scoring 8 runs, and they were only projected at like 3.9 or 4.1, so that was a very contrarian stack that it picked up. And then Cincinnati, they scored 5 runs and won. Nothing great, but enough to get some runs. And then Philadelphia, they only scored 3 runs and lost. So 4 out of the top 5 did really well yesterday. So today on August 3rd, we've got Seattle, who's hitting 268 as a team over the last week. Mediocre last 10. They're facing Aaron Sanchez. Aaron Sanchez numbers are awful. He just switched teams, so these split stats I'm not going to worry about. He's coming off 2 good starts, and then Houston has a good bullpen. So, yes, Seattle's probably going to score some runs off Sanchez. I don't think they're going to win the game. I hope they don't, but that's one place that we can look. It would be very contrarian because it only projected at 4.4. And then the second one's going to be Miami. They're only hitting 238 as a team over the last week. And they rank bottom 11, so I'm not too excited about them. You could use them. I'm curious to see kind of how they do today. They're kind of a boom-bust team. Baltimore's the same way. For some reason, they keep winning damn games when they could just be tanking and shooting for the first-round pick, but they keep hitting home runs. Again, they're facing a terrible pitcher, mediocre bullpen, hitting 255 over the last week. So that would be very contrarian, and they're probably super cheap. So typically I would flip back to the daily stacks tab and see how expensive one of these stacks are, and maybe I'll do 5 lineups and like the dollar whatever it is mini max, and then take the 2 stud pitchers that I like and then do a 5-man stack from each one of these teams and just hope to get lucky and 1 hits. And then we go down here to Cincinnati. Now, Cincinnati's much better. They've been hitting 272 as a team. They sit right in the middle in our last 10 power rankings. They're only projected at slightly over 4 runs, so that would be a good contrarian one to look at. They're facing Keuchel. Only 25 at-bats for the BVP, but 9 of 25, they're hitting him at a 360 clip. And they got the 29th ranked bullpen when he comes out of the game, so that's what I like to see. So I like to see someone who's they're scoring some runs per game. I like to see a good batting average. And then the last 10 power rank. So you can see the 4.4, 272. That's decent. Not enough BVP, so I'm not going to look at that. But it does give you a little bit of, if you're on the edge either way. And then over here we've got the pitching stats. And then I like to see the bullpen rank. So if they're hitting well, it's a bad bullpen. That's 2 or 3. That's something I'm going to look at for a contrarian stack for a GPP. Detroit, I don't even know why they're on here. Let's see. Okay, so Adrian Samson's really bad. So his split, he's got a 5.5 xFIP, a 1.5 WHIP, and he's allowing a 318 average. And then they've got basically no bullpen, a bottom four bullpen when he comes out of the game. So yeah, Detroit's going to be super cheap if you want to put them in there. But what I don't like about that is they're hitting 231 and they rank 26th in the last 10 power ranks. So the reason this team's popping up here is just because these pitching stats and bullpen ranks are so bad that they're shooting him up here. So I would kick Detroit out. Cincy I like, bad bullpen, hitting 272 over the last week. Seattle's not bad. 5.6 runs, hitting almost 270 and getting a bad pitcher, but a good bullpen. That's another contrarian we can look at. But yeah, you can kind of go down the list. My favorite two today are chalky. Minnesota, Houston, you can see their numbers are stellar over here. Minnesota gets a terrible bullpen. They get pitchers that aren't real great. Houston, I really like. They're hitting Marco at a 400 clip through 60 at-bats. And then if we go down here in the bottom side, you know, these are kind of mediocre. The one thing that jumps out at me is Atlanta, scoring 6.3 the last week, hitting 281 as a team, ranking 8th. And then they face Trevor Bauer, who's kind of been up and down. He's got great BVP against them. They're only hitting 213 off of him, but then the bullpen struggled a little bit the last month. So you could look that road. Mets, they're not hitting good, but they are scoring runs. They get Archer, who Archer's kind of held him in check, but he's got terrible stats, mediocre bullpen. So these are some GPP wins you can look down, and you know, maybe there's a team that you really like that you follow. The one thing that jumps out to me is Aaron Nola. Chicago White Sox scoring 2.3, hitting 212. They rank dead last, so Nola's got the best matchup on the board. 408 xFIP. I mean, not great numbers. 255 average. That's kind of But based on the matchup, I mean, he could come out and put up 30 DK points today. And then Pittsburgh versus Stroman, 250, 5.5. Terrible bullpen. I don't mind that. KC versus Gibson. That's kind of so-so. Boston. We're not going to get into that one. And then down here, this is where you can kind of look and find some pitchers. So over here we've got Cleveland. Cleveland's been hot. The reason they're down here is there's no projected run on the game, so let's throw that one out. And then look at these bottom 5 or 6. And Detweiler, he doesn't have any stats over here, so that's why it's sliding to the bottom, so let's throw that one out. And then we've got Strasburg. BVP's not good, but his stats have been really good. And then Arizona's only hitting 201 over the last week. They rank bottom 7 in power rankings. Boston's been doing really good. Domingo's got really good stats and a good bullpen behind him, so you could consider him. Sell, it's kind of a mixed bag there. New York just tagged him for 5 or 6 runs in 5 innings, but he's got really good stats. Bullpen struggling a little bit. I'm off a Sell today. And then these other ones you look at, like Gibson, I don't mind him. Kansas City, they're decent. They're hitting 260 over the last week, scoring 4 runs. They're kind of boom bust. They're much worse on the road, and they're in Minnesota today with a chance of rain. And then mediocre BVP. Gibson at home's got a 327 xFIP, which is really good, and allowing a 249 batting average, and the number 10 bullpen behind him. So don't mind using Gibson. He's pretty cheap. Hamels versus Milwaukee. Milwaukee, their numbers look terrible. 3.3, hitting 222, ranked 25th. BVP's decent. And then Hamels has a 2.58 ERA, but a 3.81 xFIP. But he's only allowing a 219 batting average and doesn't have much of a bullpen. So these are going to be some of the cheaper pitchers you can kind of get into. Yesterday, the pitchers that popped up was, of course, Clevenger. He was expensive, and is his number 2 pitcher. Vargas, he shat the bed. And then Wade Miley was the other one, and he has great splits, and he had a good game. He was the 6th or 7th overall highest scoring pitcher. So again, just to recap, this is something I'll be making a few changes to, but it's just basic information, quick glimpse at the teams. So basically, to find your stacks and pitchers, if you got 10 minutes to do a lineup, you can come over here, sort this by grade, and get a quick look at how the team's doing, what Vegas thinks, the pitcher, any BVP data, pitcher split stats, and how the bullpen looks. So it's a quick way to get a glimpse, and these are going to change when you open the sheet and update it. It's going to pull the new Vegas lines, so these will move up and down all day. Anyways, but try it out. Let me know if you like it, and if you do, I'll keep it on the sheet. Thanks.